Hey everybody, Zeal Brothers here once again, making another video, this one in response to an opinion piece that was posted in the Washington Post a few weeks ago. And the opinion writer her opinion appears, well, let me just read a few excerpts. And she starts off talking about the historical picture of the United States efficiency and how companies have been trying to constantly be more and more efficient as time has gone on. And she says this: American consumers, their expectations pampered and catered to for decades, are not accustomed to inconvenience. Then a quote: for generations, American shoppers have been trained to be nightmares. Amanda Mull wrote in August in The Atlantic before the supply chain problem truly turned ugly. The pandemic has shown just how desperately the consumer class clings to the feeling of being served. Customers' persistent whine. Why don't they just hire more people? Sounds feeble in this era of great resignation, especially in industries such as food service, with reputations for being tough places to work. Rather than living constantly on the verge of throwing a fit and risking taking it out on overwhelmed servers, struggling shop owners, or late arriving delivery people, we do ourselves a favor by consciously lowering expectations. Said nobody who ever accomplished anything anywhere. Here's the thing. There are lots of people who are pretending that the issues in the supply chain are things that we are just complaining about. As a person who is looking at the facts and the data, I can tell you that this is nothing that we're pretending. This is a real problem. Christmas itself is in jeopardy. Now, I know a lot of people are trying to look at the positive side. I saw a pastor talking about, hey, this would be a good chance to dial back our consumerism and things like that. And I want to tell the guy, as much as I love him, be quiet. Because here's the thing. Telling consumers to dial back their materialism because of supply chain issues is similar to telling somebody who's underpaid to be content. Right? It's the same kind of comparison. It's similar to telling somebody who's getting abused to be patient. When the issues that are being caused are caused by somebody, it is not in our interest to be patient. Patience is not always a virtue. And what do I mean by that? When your patience is being satisfied with less than what you should be getting, you shouldn't be patient. Sometimes you have to reach a limit to your patience. And the best example of this, even for the Christians, right, even for the pastors out there, is God. God has a limit to his patience. God reaches a point where he says, okay, that's it. It's time to judge. And a lot of Christians have overlooked this fact, that this is just a true statement of theology. And when it comes to the supply chain, it will be different if the issues were not insurmountable or if the issues were not self-caused. But a lot of these injuries that we have to our supply chain are self-inflicted. And let me just explain a little bit. Because when you look at the supply chain, I want to look at it first in the idea of a car. If a car is running and has been running well for a long time, there are some things that might break down. But at the end of the day, you can repair those issues. Now, what happens if you just don't run a car for 10 years? It's a lot harder to get that same car started than if you've been running it for 10 years and you have to just do ongoing maintenance with it. Well, when a supply chain shuts down, it's similar to that. You will experience problems that are way harder to fix than if you would have just kept things going. Now, what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about these bottlenecks. Now, the supply chain could also be considered to be like a river. Where a river is bottlenecked, it will impact the rest of the downstream. And when you look at the supply chain, it's got problems throughout. But the main source of the problems are the economy at large, inflation, and a shortage of workers. Now, the shortage of workers is something that people are acting like it's inevitable. And let me tell you, it's not. The reason that it seems like it's inevitable is because we won't change our opinions on how we go about business. And how do we go about business? We go about business by enacting socialism and welfare. If you have a society that is filled to the brim with socialist and welfare ideas, you will have less workers. And the workers that you do have will be more entitled and less efficient. That is something that is proven fact. as you look across societies. And the problem with it is the reason why we're seeing more and more of these problems, and we're not accustomed to that in the United States, and we should not be, is because we're seeing more and more socialism. So when you have somebody like Bernie Sanders telling you things, you need to look at that idiot and you need to tell him that the ideas that he's talking about are things that 5-year-olds say, that their parents look at them and tell them, that's not realistic, honey. Now, when your 5-year-old says it, it's not harmful because, hey, they just have a good heart. They want to help people. But when a 80 years old senator, when statesmen across the world are saying this, it's not, that's nice, honey. It's a danger. And that's what's really endangering our economy. So when people tell you to lower your expectations, they're people who don't want you to accomplish anything. I've never have ever said that. You never say lower your expectations unless you just don't deserve any better. And in this case, as an economy, we do deserve better. What do we deserve? We deserve free markets. We deserve to stop these expansive unemployment checks. We deserve to lower inflation. It would not be difficult to do. All these problems that we have basically stem from spending way more money than we actually have. And if you dial that back, you will see a supply chain that will work better. If you loosen regulations on a lot of these different companies, you will see things flow better. And the truth of the matter is a lot of times people talk about loosening regulations is dangerous. Let me tell you, what we have now is dangerous. Because we have companies that are hiring 18-year-olds and putting them on the road driving 18-wheelers. That's scary to me. But the reason they feel like they have to do that is because they don't have the guys to man a truck. People won't feel the fire to get a CDL, to get in a truck, if they can go home and sit on their butt and make money. So we got to put that fire on them. And that's just the reality. It may not sound nice, but it is true.